Hey folks, thanks for joining me. My name is Brooke Cornegie, and my background is in sustainable agriculture. I'm very concerned about nutrients in our food, very much concerned about our local food systems, local economies, um, optimum health with oils, soil building, producing food locally, all that good stuff. And I wanted to share it with you a little bit tonight about nutrients in food and why it's important to pay attention to where you're sourcing your food so that you have the best chance of getting the most nutrients out of it as possible. A little bit about me. I have a Master's of Science in Sustainable Systems that I got from Slippery Rock back in 2003. And I had an agroecology focus. From there, I went on to Peace Corps Malawi in the environment sector, where I studied permaculture and taught agriculture classes. And then the past 10 years, I was managing the sustainable development, teaching a research farm at Appalachian State University and teaching courses there. So let's get right to it. I don't want to waste your time or mine. So the topic, nutrients in food. What's the problem? The problem is that the nutrients in our food supply are severely lacking, especially compared to food grown 100 years ago. And why? What's the why for that? Food today is grown for its shelf life, the way it looks, how quickly it grows, how resistant it is to pests and diseases, and not necessarily being selected for its nutrient content. So the variety of the fruits and the vegetables that were once the pride of a region or a family have largely been replaced by improved varieties with little or no nutritional value or even flavor in some cases. Of course, the same can be said for livestock breeds that have been selected for hardiness, how quickly they can mature and get slaughtered and packaged, how uniform they are, how much they weigh, how quickly they gain weight. Anyone who has tasted heritage breed pork or chicken or turkey, slow-growing varieties can attest to that. The flavor is out of this world, and the texture is what it should actually be tasting and feeling like. We don't really know what food actually tastes like, unfortunately, in our modern culture here. So the way that we farm, this gigantic agribusiness sector that feeds the majority of us, that also contributes greatly to the loss of nutrients in the food supply. So the vast majority of the produce grown in our country is farmed in a way that turns what was once this beautiful, rich, living soil into straight up dust, most of which is already blown away or been washed away, devoid of soil life, devoid of nutrients. And a lot of that ends up in our rivers and our lakes and our streams, siltation, and leaves subsoil and bedrock behind. I've been to farms that are just pure sand, and somehow they're getting things to grow by just applying copious amounts of chemical fertilizers and pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, rodenticides, and trying to coax some living form of a plant out of the ground, but it's not necessarily going to have any of the original nutrients that plant is intended to have. Crops are often harvested before their time to give them a longer shelf life so they can be stable in transport when they're traveling across the country, across the world. And then once they get there, to be able to look good enough for a consumer to purchase it on the other end. So it has to have shelf life when it gets there too. So when it's harvested that early, those nutrients aren't able to form fully either and ripen. They often ripen with ethylene gas. They're gassed on the way to their delivery point instead of actually getting all the benefits they could from ripening there on site. So here's the deal. In order for plants to grow, they have to absorb nutrients. They have to absorb nutrients from the soil. Those nutrients have to be water soluble. They have to be dissolved in water. There's a soil solution, and it has to be able to live in that soil solution to get absorbed by the root hairs of the plants, the root tips. So those water-soluble nutrients are either provided by a balanced soil food web, or they're provided by humans artificially. So there's a few problems with humans providing nutrients to plants. Number one, it's crazy expensive. The economy of farming, it's such that it creates a dependency on, well, all kinds of things, but it's not sustainable to purchase all of your inputs and expect to get a good return. No one's getting really rich that way. Most of those are synthesized in a lab. Most of those nutrients are washed away before the plants can even use them. And then the result is they get washed downstream and they collect in bodies of water and they cause algal blooms such as the giant dead zone in the Gulf of Mexico. You might have heard of that. They're basically inorganic salts that destroy soil microbes and consequently the soil structure. And then that allows, when you don't have soil structure, you don't have the movement of air and water. Your plant roots can't penetrate it very well. You don't have habitat for earthworms and other, ground-dwelling creatures. So another problem is that we are not really that well equipped to provide exactly what a plant needs in the amount it needs when it needs it. Several decades ago, extension agents were certain that all plants needed was nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, the big three, N, P, and K. Years later, that list was expanded to include calcium, sulfur, and magnesium. After a few years after that, our understanding changed, and after observing and doing research and tests, we discovered that plants they actually also need calcium, sulfur, magnesium, boron, chlorine, manganese, iron, zinc, copper, molybdenum, nickel, and cobalt. And this was pretty recent past. So if our understanding has changed so much in the past century, what do we not know about it now? It's folly to think that we know everything there is to know now at this point. What do plants need that we don't know yet? So in providing and taking on that role of being the provider of the plant's nutrients, of the plant's nutrition, we're assuming that we know best, we know better than nature, and we might be missing something, and I'm pretty sure that we are. So on the other hand, when you focus on building the life in your soil instead of, providing those soluble nutrients yourself, when you focus on building that soil life, you facilitate the soil food web, which is what you see when you go into the forest. You don't see anybody tending the trees, tending the understory plants. What you see is a whole bunch of rich, thick, dark, loamy soil that has just accumulated there because that's a system that's in balance. It's an alive system that has the soil food web. It's got everything it needs to survive. It does not need us to do a thing for it. So oftentimes permaculturalists like to look to natural systems such as the forest, which is so efficient, to see how we can better provide food for ourselves. So when you focus on building your soil life in an ag system, in a crop field, something amazing happens. The soil becomes intelligent. Crops planted in a system that has a thriving soil life with a balance of beneficial soil bacteria and protozoa and nematodes, arthropods and fungi. They don't need humans to feed them, they can feed themselves. The interactions that take place between the plant roots and the soil microbes, it's amazing. So say that the plant needs a few molecules of cobalt on a particular part of its root structure. That plant will attract the microbe, the bacteria or fungi that can digest that cobalt from the soil particles themselves, the actual sand, silt, and clay particles, which contain every nutrient and mineral a plant could ever need. So the plant, it calls the microbe, it exudes this sugar molecule that is the favorite food of that particular microbe that digests cobalt, and then the microbe comes and it hangs out near the plant root, and eventually it does release those molecules where the plant needs it the most. And the plant can do this on every part of its root system. It can put out different cocktails of sugar molecules for different microbes and different fungi, different bacteria, and they can actually just break that stuff down from the particles, from the bedrock. They can just extract that mineral, that nutrient, and give it to the plant. So in effect, it does become intelligent. We're trying to micromanage the soil. We're trying to micromanage the plants and the interactions. But they know perfectly well, far better than we do, what they need, how they grow best, how they're going to produce the best product, our harvestable food. So when the plant can get exactly what it needs, when and where it needs it, straight from nature and not from a lab, that plant will have superior nutritional value for humans. Where do you find this food, you ask? Well, you get it from knowing the farmers in your area. You check out how they farm. Organic is, of course, far superior to conventional. We're not even touching the topic of pesticides and herbicides and all just the poisons that people put on the food that they harvest. We're not even going to go there because I'm going to assume that you know that stuff's bad for you. So organic is good. Biodynamic takes it to a whole new level. Biodynamic farmers treat their entire farm as a single organism, and those soils will be living soils. Absolutely. You can get these foods from your farmers markets. You can get them from co-ops, CSAs. Up here in Boone, we have a food hub where you can put in an order and pick up your food, order online and pick it up later. Several of the farms I know have roadside stands. Even better than that, the next level is growing on your own property. Talk about fresh. When you go out and harvest dinner right at your back door and bring it in, that food is pulsing with life, not to mention all the nutrients that they have been able to accumulate because you've treated the soil well and given the microbes what they need to thrive. So excessive tillage, that's when you turn the soil over, you till it with usually equipment, machinery, that shreds the soil structure, and then there's those pores that provide the air and the water and the space in the soil. It just becomes one packed hard pan, and you can't really have soil life in that kind of environment. So minimize tilling, if not eliminate it, and tend to the soil microbes. And there's lots of information about that online. My favorite mentor is Elaine Ingham on, I believe her website is Soil Food Web, and she provides courses and information, plenty of free information about how you can do this, different techniques. Great food, wonderful food. Get food into your body that is living, that is packed full of the nutrients they're supposed to have, and then you're all set. But most of us don't eat that way. Even if you do have your own garden, most of us have seasons, and most of us don't eat exclusively from the farmer's market, right? So what else can you do to ensure you're getting the nutrients in your body that your body needs? Well, you take supplements. Maybe 100 years ago, people didn't need to take supplements. They were getting all the vitamin D they needed. They were getting all the fresh air they needed. They were getting all the nutrients in their food they needed, but that's not the case in our culture today. So I take supplements. We should all be taking supplements. So supplement quality, just like food quality, is absolutely crucial. So many supplements out there aren't able to be absorbed by the body. They just pass straight through. So if you're going to take the time and the effort and the money to add supplements to your diet, you want to make sure they're actually able to benefit your body and not just, passing through. So for example, supplements that are infused with essential oils, like the ones that are made from Young Living, are able to be absorbed through the lining of the gut. Most supplements are hydrophilic or water soluble, and they're not very easily absorbed by that gut lining. They pass straight through. Essential oils are lipophilic or fat soluble, and those substances can be easily absorbed through the villi of the gut lining into the bloodstream and carried wherever they need to be in the body. So all of Young Living's products are infused with essential oils, and these oils are molecules that are super tiny. They're much smaller than a cell or a virus. They can penetrate into the body super quickly and be utilized by the body efficiently because the body knows what to do with a natural molecule. Essential oils don't produce the side effects that other things that we might ingest do because of the synergy of the oil's naturally occurring chemical compounds. They gently ease the cells back into an optimal state. So here's some supplements that I would recommend. So first of all, I recommend getting living food full of nutrients as close to home as possible, if not in your backyard. And then supplement your diet and your family's diet with the things that you can't necessarily get year-round. So multigreens. Multigreens are crucial. You have to have the greens in your diet. You have to have the chlorophyll. It performs so many functions in the body. The molecular structure of chlorophyll is almost identical to hemoglobin in the blood, and it kind of acts like hemoglobin. It has way too many functions to go into in this short video, but I encourage you to look up effects of chlorophyll on the body. Life 9 is a product that it combines 17 billion live cultures from 9 different beneficial bacterial strains for a full spectrum of support for your gut. We all know we need to be taking probiotics. Our gut is our second brain, and some people do it by making kimchi or kombucha, which I also highly recommend. For that consistency and that variety of microbes, I definitely recommend taking this broad spectrum sort of a probiotic like Life 9. Omega Gives is another one that is very, very neat. It contains the omega-3 fatty acids, vitamin D3. Again, vitamin D is something that a lot of us are lacking, and without it, a lot of the body's functions just don't take place. So you have to make sure you get that into your body. Most of us don't get it. It also contains coenzyme Q10, and these nutrients together, they all support brain function, heart function. They support the eyes and the joints, so it's a very good one to have. And finally, my favorite is Ningxia Red. This is a supplement made by Young Living. It's a blend of wolfberry pulp, the fruit, the rind, the seeds, all of it is crushed up. It also combines other berries and essential oils into this beautiful little supplement drink. So the wolfberries are grown in the Ningxia province of China, and the wolfberries are just antioxidant powerhouses. They go out and they scavenge those free radicals and neutralize them so that they're not doing damage to your body and not causing accelerated aging. They're just getting the bad stuff out. So a wolfberry, so there's something called the ORAC scale, which measures the function of, how antioxidant something is. So for example, blueberries, which are known to be high in antioxidants, are about a 2,500 on the ORAC scale. Wolfberries come in at 30,000. And they also combine pomegranates, which have a 10,000 ORAC value. So just a lot of good things. My goodness. The essential oils that are in the blend as well have just off the charts antioxidant function. So when you combine all those things and drink them on a regular basis, you start to see some pretty amazing things happen. And if for whatever reason you run out before your next order comes in, you're absolutely going to feel it and crave it. So these nutrients are just things, they're just tools to help you get where you need to get for optimum health. And I encourage you to look into it. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.